it's not like I'm taking my pants off at the airport. It's just my jeans. It's for some reason what my jeans do. They just set off the thing. They set off the warning like I have drugs in my pants.
Are they loose?
No, they were like tight jeans. I think they have like a weird extra thick crotch.
Michelle and her extra thick crotch pants.
I love a jean with extra thick crotch. I don't know about you, Scary Mystery Surprise listeners, but I love my jeans with 3 to 4 inch crotches.
Introducing Thick Crotch Pants by Newman Media.
I was going to say by your friends at Scary Mystery Surprise, but Newman Media can do it too.
Get yours today. Welcome to Scary Mystery Surprise,
where we talk about scary things that surprised us around the internet.
I'm Edwin.
I'm Michelle.
So we're going to go super educational on this one. We're not going to teach science.
I can't wait for my brain to grow.
This is the story of two girls, Mary Roff and Watseka Vennum. V-E-N-N-U-M.
Miss Vennum? That's a great last name.
I can imagine it at like a doctor's office. Miss Vennum?
Miss Vennum? Miss Vennum, your doctor is ready.
These two girls, their time on Earth overlapped a little bit. Part of the story, we're going to also introduce Dr. E. Winchester Stevens, MD. Insert applause.
Ooh.
He's the one that helped document a lot of these events. And actually, I have a PDF with the whole book when it was written way back in the day. I have to look up the exact date. But this happened in like the 1800s.
And so we're going back in time. So we're going back in time to the 1800s sometime, correct?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Wait, should we get in the time machine or?
Oh yeah, let's just do it. Get it out of the way.
Did you get gas for it, or it does use a lot of gasoline?
And the prices, at least, are better now than last time. Goodness.
It's true. It's very true. Okay, let's go.
Let's go. Wait, we don't know what year exactly, Michelle.
Oh, shit.
1864.
Okay. Okay, 1864.
There we go.
I hope this is right. Okay, where are we? What's happening? Who are these people?
This story it's called the Watseka Wonder. This doctor, Dr. E.W. Stevens, the one that I said earlier, he wrote it. And this is like the name that stuck. This actually is one of the most bizarre stories. I think it's one of the more believable ones because it was written by a doctor who analyzed all these things. And there's a couple of families involved, but a whole town, Watseka, Illinois, by the way, that's the name of a town. So just south of Watseka, Illinois, in a town called Midford, back in 1864, Lorinda Smith and Thomas Vennum had a child, Mary Watseka Vennum, born on April 16th. The family, if they had to pinpoint exactly when the stuff started happening, it would probably be around July 11th, 1877. Watseka was 13 years old by that time, and she had been working around the house. And she was one of those handy women, sewing and carpet making and
woodworking, butter churning.
Maybe not all of it, but yeah, like the things that you had to know. But yeah, stuff like that. The mom noticed that Watseka was not doing too well. She was just like, she's sick or something. Obviously, when she fell to the floor, it became clear to any person that was watching, this girl was just gone. She was dead. She just wouldn't move. She was like tense, like stiff. So the parents were obviously worried. They didn't know who to call or whatever, but they could tell she was still breathing. She stayed that way, completely frozen for 5 hours. And then she came back, slowly started coming back. Like she was able to move. She was fine. What happened? While sitting around with her family, she claimed to have heard several people in her room yelling out her name. Rancy, like a nickname, Rancy, instead of Watseka. That was her nickname. She said that people were coming up to her very close. So close that she could feel their breath on her face. And they were like, Rancy.
Unfortunate nickname. I'll just say it. Rancy is not a great nickname.
It's like rancid, right? Like
yeah, it's just not, especially because it's so close to like Nancy. But Rancy?
Anyway, the night after that, she woke up in the middle of the night without being able to go back to sleep, saying that multiple people were in her room. Rancy.
Rancy. Rancy.
Rancy.
Fuck, shut up. Everybody just shut up. I hate that nickname.
Her mom was like, all right, something's going on. So her mom stayed with her that night. By the way, mental health back in the 1800s is...
I think they just lock you away at that point. I think they don't burn you, but they lock you away.
It was like one of those things where you're so embarrassed that you're willing to lock your child up in an attic type of thing. And that's real. Like, people would do that.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's pretty twisted. That, and then eventually the asylums as well, which weren't a nice place. Bring that energy down, baby. Let's think of those asylums and those poor people locked in them. Hell yeah.
What are you going to think? You're going to think, oh, this person's losing their mind, right? Like, what's going on? But she kept seeing spirits and people in the room.
And they keep saying my name, Rancy, over and over. I just hate that nickname so much. It's driving me nuts. Rancy.
So at one point, she looked around the room and said, "Oh, Mother, can't you see little Laura and Birdie? They are so beautiful." Birdie, by the way, had died already when Lurency was only 3 years old. And there were things like that kept happening where like she would say ghosts or angels, like she would call them, would be in the room. And doctors and people that were trying to help her were like, this doesn't make any sense. So anyway, fast forward, September, everything just stopped and she seemed to go back to normal. Nobody was suspecting, what was coming though. This is where things got real. It was November 27th, 1877, when she started experiencing extreme pain in her stomach. Every few hours, she would get violent pain and she would fold herself completely. Dr. Stevens described Lurency folding her body back so much that her feet and her head touched.
Oh, I was imagining folding the other way. Now I don't know how to feel.
It seems like it goes against your instinct, right? Like your stomach hurts. It's like you're not going to fold backward.
No, you bend forward. But anyway, I mean, obviously she's possessed.
So it's December now. Pains had stopped, but she would have all these trance-like states. She would lose herself for hours at a time and then go unconscious. She would lay down and start describing these angels and ghosts and stuff. She had been under the care of 2 doctors. The situation did not get any better though, and even close friends and relatives started butting in and giving their opinion, like, asylums check out this brochure. Right?
Yeah, like maybe just look at it. We're not saying anything, but I'm going to leave this pamphlet here just in case.
Just think about it. It's an option. Makes your life easier.
No pressure. No pressure.
Obviously, back then, patients were not treated well in asylum. So everybody was like, the family was like, no. But there were still people in that town that saw things differently. I imagine them as like the hippies of back then, like very open, like spiritual. This is a thing. Let's talk about it. Maybe it's a spirit. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's in your mind. Maybe let's talk about it. Something like a spiritual origin type of thing. And anyway, these spiritual people, I call them spiritual people, but we don't know if they were spiritual. Maybe it's some other word. But they're saying that she might be possessed.
I mean, look, not the most complicated jump from limited mental health. It's a pretty logical jump to make as a diagnosis back then.
So imagine you hear, okay, she might be possessed. You're like, oh, dang it, okay. But word is spreading, right? Like people are talking about it. They're whispering. They're like, I don't know what words. I think you make better voices of the 1800s than I do. But imagine them gossiping outside of the pharmacy or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, did you hear about what Rancy said? I think she's possessed by the demons inside of her head. Oh, that turned into a poem for some reason. I don't know why did that happen? Oh, no. Am I possessed?
Among all those comments and stuff, there was this one guy who heard, it got to his ears, Mr. Roff. He was from a family that lived across town. And he was on the same side as the family, saying that, no, don't take her to an asylum. Let's just talk about it. I have an idea. Please let me talk to you about it. So Mr. Vennum was like, all right, Mr. Roff, let's talk. So they met up. Mr. Roff went over to the family's house. They brought along Dr. E.W. Stevens from Wisconsin. That's a doctor who was going to help out. And the doctor would visit Watseka pretty often. He would hear what's going on. And after all, it was like the talk of the town, I guess, literally. But anyway, they both arrived at Mr. Vennum's house on January 31st of 1878. It was 4 p.m. No one else was in the house except for the family. And that's when Mr. Roff saw Lurency sitting in a chair by a stove. She was curled up. She had a blank stare, completely in silence. The first account from the doctor, again, this is in that book, he says that she looked like a, quote, old hag. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Stevens.
What a dick.
Right.
Old hag. Jesus Christ.
He was given a chair and he just sat there and it was just quiet. But as soon as Dr. Stevens moved, she yelled at him to not come any closer. She did not want to greet the men, did not want to be touched, and she was rude and distant to the doctor and the other man. But then the doctor started asking a series of questions. It was like, what's your name? And she just immediately replied,
Katrina Hogan.
And then said, Katrina, how old are you?
63.
Where are you from?
Germany.
How long ago?
3 days.
How did you come?
Through the air.
How long will you stay?
3 weeks.
I think the through the air part makes it sound like some ghost that floated
yeah, it's
there.
like a spirit, yeah.
Once the questioning was over, she changed the way she was speaking and said that, okay, fine, she was going to be honest. She was like, all right, now I'm going to tell you the truth. And so that makes me think, oh, was she lying with that first part? She was just trying to throw people off. She said that she was not a woman, but that her real name was Willie. She said that her father's name was Peter Canning. And what was weird about it is that she would end up giving a full biography of these people, like describing them, like who they were, where they worked, when they died, when they were born, everything, right? So they were like, this is weird, right? The doctor's just like, probably adjusting his glasses or something. An hour later, Mr. Roff and Dr. Stevens were about to leave when Lurency also stood up and suddenly fell to the floor, again, completely rigid. I'm imagining those goats that get scared and they're just like...
Like her just falling over from the chair, like fully sitting up, just frozen, but like her hands and her feet are just out straight.
Oh no. She's going to haunt us.
I know she is. I know. And we're going to deserve it too.
These guys, they were like helping her up, right? And then she changed her demeanor because she was still reacting now. And she seemed to be more of herself, but then also said that she knew that Willie and Katrina were evil spirits that kept bothering her, but went along looking around the room, describing to the others what she could see. So that's when Dr. Stevens was like, why don't you have a logical, good spirit come to you instead of an evil one? And Lurency looked around the room and she said, there is a good angel that wants to come. So Dr. Stevens was like, what's the angel's name? And Lurency replied, Mary Roff. Mr. Roff, by the way, who was there, was listening to the whole thing and said that was his daughter, Mary Roff, and that she had died 12 years ago. So he was like, yeah, let her come. We'll be glad to have her, please. So who was this Mary Roff? By the way, by this point, I'm thinking, hold on, Mary is not an uncommon name. You know that this guy's last name is Roff. 80% chance you're going to get that first name. Plus her own name was Mary Lurency Vennum. So, okay, might be a coincidence. Anyway, but the real story of Mary Roff is that she was the daughter of Asa and Ann Roff, right, Mr. Roff. And she was born on October 8th, 1846 in Indiana. When Mary was about 6 months old in 1847, she had one of these fits, like a trans-like. The family thought that she was going to stay sick and eventually die, but a few weeks went by and she got better. And then she would have these episodes where her muscles would get very tense, she would twitch, and then they would go away, and it just kept happening. As years passed, these fits started getting worse and more violent, and doctors they wanted to help her. So for over a year, they came to see what was going on, check her out, do all these treatments, but nothing was working. And they found out that she was bleeding herself for relief to get rid of these terrible headaches, which I guess is ancient medicine. Not ancient, but it's old medicine.
It is old medicine. That's going to make her more anemic and probably give her worse headaches, I think, is doing the bleeding thing.
Man, she should have known. It was Saturday morning, July 16th, 1864. She went out to her backyard with a knife and cut her arm. She was bleeding so much that she passed out. So when she came back, it was already 2 p.m, and she had turned even more violent. So something was seriously going on. 5 men had to hold her down. And she had just lost a bunch of blood. So it's like, how the heck are you so strong? You should be like... just
tired.
What's going on? Yeah. But after those 5 days, she acted normally. She did her own thing. But she could no longer recognize people around her. She could not hear, feel, or see. But from all of the tests that she was put through, they noticed that she could read blindfolded. She could act as if she could see when she was blindfolded with a heavy cloth, which was really weird. By the way, all these are like smart, very smart people that are trying to figure this out. We're not going to put like this light silk cloth around your eyes and make you read. No, we're going to really,
Yeah, just like the crotch of my jean pants. It's that thick.
Yeah. It was, probably as thick as your crotch pants. I mean, the crotch of your pants.
Yeah, that's what I'm just assuming.
She's going to plug in the product here.
Yeah, you got to plug, always be selling.
Dr. Stevens' book mentions that if she was handed a letter upside down, she would flip it the correct way and read it exactly, word for word, while she was blindfolded. Doctors called it catalepsy. Members of the church called it a mystery of God.
I guess that's better than being possessed. I guess that's better than it just being like, oh, let's burn her. The mystery of God's way more pleasant.
Then on July 5th, 1845, she had breakfast, went to lay down on her bed, and started screaming. Sorry, I don't know why I found that funny. I just imagined it. Like, you're going to bed.
You're just having a normal morning. And then you just go lay down and then you just start screaming.
This is going to make me feel even worse, but we just got to get through it. Here we go. When those in the house saw her thrashing and twitching, they did what they usually did and made sure that she didn't hurt herself. A few moments after that, she died.
Oh, shit. So she went to bed, screamed, and then died.
Oh, no, I feel terrible.
You owe Mary Roth a big apology, Edwin.
I'm so sorry, Mary. I am sorry. So is Michelle.
I guess I am.
For eating beef jerky while we're talking about your death.
It was good beef jerky, okay? And I put mute on so no one had to hear me chew.
So she's dead, now she's a spirit. Or this is the spirit that Lurency is trying to invite in instead of these evil spirits, right? By this time, they had already negotiated with this spirit, which was supposedly Mary Roff, when she was going to come into her body, when she was going to take over. So it was like scheduled, be on time, 9:00, blah, blah, blah. How long are you going to stay? Yeah. It was that, like, structured. Anyway, about a week after the supposed spirit of Mary had taken over Lurency's body, Mrs. Roff and her daughter, Minerva, went to see her. And as they were coming up to the house, Mary sounded so excited when she said, "There comes my ma and my sister Nervy."
Oh.
And that's what Mary, the Mary Roff, used to call Minerva when they were both young, Nervy. When they came into the house, she hugged them and cried of joy to see them. But after their visit, Lurency seemed sadder around the house, and she kept saying that she wanted to go home. So Lurency's family was like, okay, how about we send you to the Roff family's home?
Yeah.
And
sure, why not?
That's not weird. Let's just send you. Why not?
It's not like Rancy hasn't been full of drama. You know what I mean? She's been a handful. So maybe being like, instead of the asylum as they brush those pamphlets away, why don't you go stay with the Roth family? You want to hang out with them so badly. Go. We'll be fine.
Anyway, they asked the family, and they said, yeah, of course. So on February 11th, 1878, Lurency was sent off to the Roth's home. And when they asked how long she was going to stay, she said that the angels would let her stay until sometime in May. So remember, this is February. That's a long time to spend at someone's home or whatever.
It's a long guest. That's a long haul guest.
And so she was there. She was happy, remembering old times with her family, remembering hundreds of scores of the music she used to study as a child. And she acted like a normal member of the family. She recognized old acquaintances, greeted one of them, Mrs. Parker, as Auntie Parker, just like Mary used to call her 12 years before Lurency was born. Yeah. She looked at her and her daughter, who was Nellie Parker, and asked, Nellie, do you remember when Nervy and I would come over to your house and sing? And in fact, that was true. Mary used to do that. Her and her sister used to sing along with Nellie. Again, stuff that Lurency would just never know, right? And lots of other details. At one point, Mrs. Roff put on a dress that Mary used to wear. And when she came in the house and found it, she recognized the dress immediately and then asked for a box of letters of old relics of her old life. And she relived and retold all of those stories from before Mary died. Mr. Roff, in trying to speak with his daughter, but also testing Lurency, asked if she remembered when they used to live in Texas, because the family had lived there at some point. To which Lurency immediately replied that yes, she remembers crossing the Red River and seeing Indians, and also Mrs. Reeder's girls who had gone with them. She made detailed claims in this book, by the way, like in the book that Dr. wrote. Some were letters to Dr. Stevens in gratitude for giving her the chance to come back, and also recording what she was going through. On May 7th, she told Mrs. Roff that Watseka Vennum was coming back, and was very sad about the whole thing, and asked if she could gather Nervy and everybody to say goodbye. She was being interviewed about her former life, and she explained that she was not aware that she was in someone else's body at first. There's all of these people that interviewed her. There's all these articles for the time that were like, this is really weird, who are you, all this stuff. By the way, all this time her health and appearance were improving, and when asked where Lurency was, she would say that Lurency was in heaven taking lessons. She started answering as many questions as possible about how whatever she was going through actually worked, to the best of her knowledge. Which is really cool, because I've always wondered, if you had a chance to talk with a ghost or a spirit, what would you talk to them about? And I would want to know how to replicate that. Like, how are you doing this, and how can I do it too? Or something like that. I wouldn't ask for the secret of life or whatever.
No, and also, why would they know that? Just, they were human, so how would they know?
That's true. Darn it, I would have wasted my question. I'm thinking of it as a genie, even though it's probably not.
They're not a genie. It's just like Aunt Susan or whatever.
I don't know. I'm just your aunt. You remember me. I didn't do anything.
Yeah. What do you even...
Give me some cigarettes. So she said goodbye to everyone that she knew. She gave advice to her family and said that her family would be able to feel her close at times. Rancy was going to return at 11 o'clock. And so Mary's sister and the family gathered. She spoke of them, and at the time she predicted, Lurency came back. She addressed Mr. Roff as Mr. Roff and asked to be taken home. She grew up, by the way, before I continue, right? All this stuff that was going on with her, like she was just like, yeah, this happened. Like at the time, she was really that other person. And it's still one of the most bizarre, like spiritual, physical realm type of combination things recorded, if it's real, right? If it's real. She grew up to be a very happy young woman, and she couldn't remember much of Mary's possession, and she lived a healthy life. After the publication of Lurency's story, the family offered their own perspective and thoughts on the matter, and I think Mary's sister said it best in one of her letters when she was asked on the supposed possession by Mary on Lurency's body, and here's what she said. And as the sunset approaches, I harbor no fear of the coming night, its shadows contained within their folds no demand to torment with horror the closing hour. I understand that this account might be tough to believe, but even if it wasn't true and in the worst case scenario it was all made up, it still managed to change the life on an individual, the lives of a family, and of an entire community. The job there, even as Minerva or Nervy said it, was to trust that once we leave the earth, they can rest assured that there's nothing there to be afraid of, that there's more to us than just our bodies. And that perhaps once we leave our bodies, we can still come back, maybe to convey a message and relive our memories. To this day, I think that's one of those weird possession stories that aren't creepy necessarily. For it to be all made up, I don't know. It might be. Like, I never want to cross that out because obviously there's a healthy level of skepticism. And I think we should all have that. But it's very convincing. Like, when I read it, I read the whole thing like in one sitting and I was like, wow, could this be real? What if this stuff happened? And then you hear of all these things that are happening now with past lives and hypnosis, and you find out who you were in another life and it makes sense. And you're like, oh, wow, it might be real. But anyway, if we are missing any really famous legends or stories or weird mysteries, send them to us. Have you gotten emails? I haven't gotten emails.
Send us emails. Edwin's feeling lonely, so you better send him some emails. Even though I'm on the DM, so whatever, but we share them, so it's not like...
Yeah, eventually we see everything, but... I guess I see the first emails and you see the first DMs, right? You see them first. So, cool. But anyway, yeah, send us messages, send us your ideas.
So what are we going to talk about next week, Edwin?
I don't know. I think it'll be a surprise.
Ooh.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.